3 spine-chilling true horror stories from summer vacations that uncover sinister secrets. The sun was shining as the Rodriguez family arrived at their lakeside cottage in Pine Hill, but little did they know, blissful ignorance often dances hand in hand with lurking dread. Alex, their oldest boy, felt nostalgia slice through him like a sharp knife. Memories of summers filled with laughter, fishing, and splashing in the lake flooded his mind, a warm blanket of safety. But unbeknownst to them, that safety was a facade, hiding the sinister whispers of the past. One afternoon, Alex stumbled across Mr. Lewis, the elderly neighbor with kind eyes and a welcoming smile. "You kids be careful near that lake," he warned, his voice low and gravelly. "This place, it's got stories." Intrigued, Alex listened as Mr. Lewis painted chilling tales of disappearances, strange flickering lights dancing at twilight, and families who simply vanished, becoming echoes lost forever. What began as mere folklore turned to dread when night fell. Eerie noises invaded their sanctuary, a symphony of whispers that crawled under their skin, making hearts race and breath shallow. Outside their cottage, just beyond the tree line, unseen eyes seemed to watch, always watching. As they roamed the quiet town, the tension in the air thickened. Locals cast sidelong glances when the lake was mentioned, their unease nearly palpable. A sudden mist, shrouding the lake in an otherworldly veil, swept by like a phantom, wrapping around them like a tightening grip. Every rustle of leaves felt like a warning, each frog's croak now a mocking taunt. They rushed to nearby authorities, only to be met with disbelieving chuckles, brushing off their concerns as simple town myths. Isolation began gnawing at their instincts, feeding paranoia and manifesting doubts of whether they were truly alone. Just as they packed their bags, considering revisiting the safety of home, Alex stumbled upon a hidden cave while hiking a dark mouth leading into secrets steeped in shadows. Inside, he discovered disturbing artifacts, items from families who had offered something to the Great Lake's depths, desperate to keep it satisfied. The stories Mr. Lewis told weren't fiction, they were warnings. Their sense of security shattered as suspicion twisted around their impressions of the friendly neighbor. What had they unwittingly walked into? As night shrouded the cottage once more, chilling winds howled through the trees, disturbing the quiet and sending shivers down their spines. Just when they thought fear couldn't grip them tighter, the familiar figure of Mr. Lewis appeared on their porch, a ghostly smile plastered on his face. He spoke softly, yet his words slithered around them like snakes. With darkness blanketing Pine Hill, their hearts pounding louder than the wind, the Rodriguez family huddled together, questioning not just their safety, but the very reality of their vacation. Who could they trust when the truth, lurking beneath the surface, was far more terrifying than the shadows that danced beyond their door? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. In the flickering candlelight of the cottage, tension crackled in the air. Eyes darting to the shadows that lay waiting, hearts pounding like drums in their chests. Uncertainty coiled within them. Would this summer vacation unveil dark secrets better left in the depths, or expose something sinister and clamorous that could rip their family apart? With every second ticking toward that final, terrifying encounter, the chilling question echoed, what truly lurked in the murky depths of that haunting lake? Alex's mind raced as he tried to make sense of Mr. Lewis's unsettling presence. The man's smile felt predatory, and Alex could almost sense his intentions lurked just beneath the surface. He thought about the cave and its gruesome offerings, the twisted connection between their safety and some unseen bargain. What did it mean? Were they now part of a terrible story waiting to unfold because they had come back to this cursed place? His younger siblings clutched the edges of the sofa, wide-eyed and scared. What did he mean by stories? Isabel asked, her voice tremulous. What really happened to those families? We need to leave, their mother whispered, her eyes flicking nervously to the windows as if danger lurked just outside. "Just wait," Alex urged, his voice stronger than he felt. "Let us hear what he has to say." The air grew palpably thick as their decision solidified. It felt like walking toward a void. Mr. Lewis had positioned himself just inside the door, creating a barrier between them and the outside world. Shadows twisted behind him, the flickering light distorting his silhouette into something monstrous. Without thinking, Alex grabbed his flashlight and pointed it directly at Mr. Lewis. "What do you know?" The beam of light sliced through the darkness, illuminating the old man's face. For a brief moment, he appeared surprised, then, laughter erupted, hollow and echoing, as if he reveled in their fear. "You're asking questions, young man, that perhaps you shouldn't," he said, his voice a mix of calmness and mockery. "What happened to those families? Well, what are you willing to offer to find out?" "Offer?" Alex said, feeling a horrid chill creeping along his spine. His heart thudded in his chest, raw and loud. Around him, family members exchanged anxious glances, fear clawing at them. The lake's surface shone from outside, reflecting a ghostly glow. It pulsed strangely, as if calling to them. The once charming cottage now felt like a cage, its walls closing in with every second. "I can help you," Mr. Lewis continued, leaning in closer, his voice dropping to a sinister whisper. "But it comes with a price. The lake demands something to be revealed." Before Alex could respond, a deafening crack echoed from outside, startling them. The cottage seemed to tremble, and a flurry of wind rushed through the open window, extinguishing the candles, plunging them into darkness. Panic instantly consumed the family, breath quickened, and shadows danced violently along the walls. "Get away from the door!" their father shouted, moving them further into the room. The whispers returned, louder now, layered like a chorus of the damned, beckoning from beyond the misty veil outside. Alex's heart pounded as his eyes adjusted to the darkness. In the distance, a figure formed at the edge of the lake, illuminated for a heartbeat with an unnatural luminescence there, and then gone. Had they been drawn here for this? To become the next story? "Please!" Isabel cried, her small voice breaking through the chaos. The oppressive atmosphere intensified, trapping them in its fearsome embrace, and once more those piercing eyes outside watched, relentless. As dread coiled around them, Alex realized a horrifying truth: this wasn't the end but only the beginning. To escape whatever trap lay waiting, they had to face the lake, face the past. But what if confronting it meant embracing its darkness? The family huddle was breaking, and terror filled the air. What should they choose: fight the secrets of the lake or risk becoming part of its gruesome tale? And then came the last chilling revelation. The lake stirred restlessly, anticipating their decision, and what it truly demanded. Would they be brave enough to find out what awaited them, or would they succumb to the shadows? The darkness pressed in like a weight, thick and suffocating. Shadows twisted inside the cottage, creeping closer, eager to swallow them whole. Isabel's voice trembled with each plea, her eyes darting to each corner of the room as if the walls themselves were closing in. Alex felt his heart race faster, a brutal drum echoing in the silence. He turned to Mr. Lewis, his figure barely distinguishable in the void, and demanded, "What do you want from us?" Mr. Lewis's grin widened, revealing teeth that glinted like sharp stones under the faint light. "What the lake wants, dear boy," he replied, his voice like rustling leaves. "It hungers for stories." "Stories?" Their father scoffed, but there was a quiver to his bravado. "We won't give you anything." "Ah, but you already have." Mr. Lewis cocked his head, eyes glistening with a knowing sheen. "Coming here, to this cursed cottage, no, it's not merely a summer retreat. It's a crossroads. And something must be paid." A chill raced through Alex's veins. The whispers surged, filling the air with a ghastly mix of laughter and sobs, encircling them like a sinister lullaby. "What happens if we refuse?" he asked, breath hitching. Mr. Lewis stepped closer, the shadows seemingly pulling him into their fold. Then the lake will recant the tales it's held. Families vanished into the depths, their secrets forever unearthing more horror. You don't want to become part of those legends, do you? Isabel clutched her brother's arm, her grip a frantic vice. Alex. I don't like this. We need to go. Panic tainted her voice, setting off alarm bells in Alex's mind. Listen, everyone. He reached for his flashlight again, its beam wavering nervously. Light glinted off something wet just outside the window. His pulse pounded in his ears as he shone it in that direction. The lake seemed alive, water lapping eagerly at the shore, a murky beckoning in its depths. Would you like to know their stories, Alex? Mr. Lewis asked, his tone syrupy, mocking. Those who offered their lives for one glimpse of truth. Shut up. Alex shouted back. You're scaring my family. But the truth clawed at his insides. What if learning those stories could save them? What if it was the only way to break free from whatever dark compulsion bound the place? In that moment, he couldn't push aside the curiosity, the need to understand. It burned deep, a fire igniting amid the dread. What do you want? What's the price? A gleam of satisfaction flickered in Mr. Lewis's eyes. Ah, that's the spirit. All you must do is share your own story, something dark hidden within your heart. Suddenly, the air turned heavy, thick with expectation. Alex could feel the collective shiver of his family, fear and doubt intertwined in the echoes of their breaths. The walls seemed to inch closer, as if straining to listen. Without warning, the ground shook violently, as if responding to Mr. Lewis's words. Shelves rattled, and things tumbled to the floor. No! Their mother shouted, feathers of pure terror in her voice. Too late. Mr. Lewis howled with delight, his laughter sending icy daggers through the air. The lake knows your secrets. Alex's mind spiraled, visions coursing through of something immeasurable beneath the water. Their fates felt intricately linked with the abyss. What could it reveal? What sacrifices lurked behind each family's story? His heart raced as he felt the pull of the darkness, the whispered secrets clamoring to escape a cataclysm of moral choices, desperation, and the weight of truth. He turned to his family, expecting their faces to mirror his own. Don't you understand? He pleaded. We might not have a choice. And then the lake shimmered, revealing several spectral figures emerging from its depths, glowing faintly against the black water, cold and beckoning. They reached for the family, shadows that once belonged to innocent souls trapped in the tides. What do you want? Isabel screamed, her voice raw. The figures answered in unison, their mouths moving but the words drowned in ghostly moans, binding a sinister promise that echoed through the cottage. Intertwining with the very fabric of their horror. Alex realized now the real horror was not just deep within the lake but haunting each of them, waiting to be unveiled. He stepped forward, the family pulling back instinctively. Was it time to sacrifice their secrets? Or would they risk joining that cursed lineage forever? The ground trembled beneath them, the question hanging heavy in the air: how far would they go to escape the darkness? The spectral figures lingered, their gauzy shapes drawing closer, and the air grew cooler, thick with invisible breaths. Alex felt raw terror grip him. Isabel's grip on his arm tightened until it almost hurt. Their father's bravado had evaporated, replaced by the reality of the ghastly scene unfolding before them. Tell us your stories, or they will take you, Mr. Lewis taunted, his grin grotesque in the dim light. The whispers from the lake swelled, a maddening cacophony pressing at the edges of their sanity. Time blurred. Seconds turned into what felt like hours as dread wrapped around them like a suffocating blanket. Shadows morphed, stretching into dark shapes that seemed to reach beyond the cottage walls. Alex's heart thundered in his chest. Alex, Isabel whispered, her voice quaking, they want us to confess. What if no? He cut her off, his voice shaking with desperation. We can't give in. We won tea, but in that moment, their mother gasped, her eyes darting towards the window. Look out there. Alex turned his flashlight toward the lake again. The water pulsated with energy, shimmering like black glass reflecting a hidden world below. Shapes churned beneath the surface, writhing in agitation. Something was down there. Something that didn't belong to the light. "Tell them your story," Mr. Lewis urged, his voice a snake's hiss, lurking with menace. "We don't have any dark secrets," their father shouted, his protest echoing wildly in the tense air. "Oh, everyone has secrets," the old man replied, posture shifting, eyes flaring with sinister glee. "It's only a matter of how much they're willing to pay." Suddenly, the figures from the lake surged closer. The air grew acrid, stinging their lungs. Alex caught a glimpse of hollow eyes that seemed to absorb light, fingers elongated and desperate. In that moment, something snapped within him. A breaking point flooded with instinct, with fear, and with a slim thread of hope. "What if it's not just about us?" Alex pressed, his voice rising amidst the screams of the shadows. "What if it is about them?" Isabel blinked at him, confusion lining her brow, as if he had spoken an ancient language. Their father's stare turned hard. "What do you mean?" Alex took a deep breath, the stench of decay mixing with the musty scent of earth and wood. "These stories, they're not just ours. It's everyone who has come here. Their secrets are binding them too." The lake churned furiously, the figures growing bolder, skimming closer to the shore. Their moans turned into pleading wails, echoing their unfinished business. Memories of lost generations filtering through Alex's mind. The couples who vacationed, the families with laughter bubbling over the waves, all weighed down by untold horrors that tied them to the very ground. "They want us to share not just our sins but theirs," Alex shouted, the realization striking him like a lightning bolt. "Maybe if we tell their stories, we can set them free." But the shadows recoiled, retaliating in a violent shudder. "No!" they cried, the old man's voice rising above the chaos, a horrific symphony of rage. "You exist as one you cannot escape." Fear gripped Alex tighter as the ground shook again, cracks spiderwebbing across the wooden floor. The walls buckled under the weight of overwhelming dread. The shadows shrieked, drowning Mr. Lewis's laughter, twisting into horrifying visages. "Tell your story," Isabel pleaded, terror etched in her eyes. "Before it's too late." It was now or never. The urgency clawed at his throat. He needed to fight against the weight of his family's darkness. Summoning every ounce of courage, he stepped closer to the abyss, ready to release the secrets buried deep inside him. "I will tell you. Just stop this." As the light flickered, the spectral figures leaned in, anticipation filling the air, waiting for the truth to fall from his lips. The lake rippled, pulses of anxiety emanating from its depths. Would revealing their dark tales save them, or would that simply pull them further into the lake's grasp? The shadows seemed to swarm under Mr. Lewis's command, feeding on Alex's hesitation. It was now or never. The question lingered, both haunting and desperate. How many stories did they truly need to unlock the way out? Before Alex could speak, the shadows morphed into chaotic forms, their shrieks piercing the humid night air. His voice wavered as he raised it above the din, "I'll tell you the story of the old couple in the cabin." But as he began, a sudden gust of wind whipped through the cottage, sending the curtains flapping violently. Isabel screamed, her hand slipping from Alex's grasp. Shadows darted towards her, their fingers curling, ready to snatch her away. In that moment, Alex's pulse raced as terror surged inside him. If he lost his sister, who could save them all? Desperation burning in his gut, he pressed on. They came here years ago. Always smiling, always ready for the next adventure, but the spectral figures were relentless. They hovered menacingly, inching toward him, drowning out his voice with howls that echoed like vengeful spirits determined to claim their dues. Their eyes glinted, hollow and insatiable. "Tell the truth." A figure with a face like shattered glass murmured, its voice creeping into Alex's skull. We need the truth. He remembered the couple's secret, how they had prowled through the woods at night, searching for something buried deep beneath the ancient trees. Losing their souls to greed, how they sacrificed their own children, obscured by fate's dark humor. It was a deed lesser known, hidden behind smiles and hometown reminiscences. They buried something sacred, he called out, words tearing from him, desperate to hold Isabel's gaze. They weren't just hunters, they were cursed. The wailing intensified. Alex could feel the walls constricting, the air thickening, as if the very structure of the cottage fed off their fear. The shadows flinched at his confession, recoiling, as if the truth stung them like salt on an old wound. Cursed to roam, he continued, knowing he was losing time. They came for the treasure, and they left something behind, something foul. More. Mr. Lewis hissed, his eyes aglow with something both ravenous and ravenous. You must do better. Isabel's breath caught as shadows clawed at her, their grip tightening around her, each splintering shriek pushing her further from the world she knew. Alex! She cried, the fear mingling with the echoes of their ancestors' tragedies. Another pulse from the lake surged upwards, and the spring-fed waters rose to a furious roar. With it came voices from the abyss, crying out not just for their release, but for judgment. Judgments of guilt that spread like wildfire through the air. The weight of so many stories of sin and sorrow hung thick like fog. Suddenly, Alex's mind revisited their family's own secret. Memories flashed, the night they huddled together, knowing they'd lost Grandma to the lake, the reason they'd come here. Lost, forgotten, voices silenced. It all churned together in a whirlwind of panic. What if we owe them a piece of our own truth? He shouted, casting fleeting glances to Isabel, whose face seemed to twist under the shadowy grip. The price is our confession, a binding of spirits. Yes. We must free ourselves. What do we have to share, Alex? Isabel's voice trembled, her fear shifting from the shadows to the sibling bond that still held them together. I saw Mom, he whispered, eyes widening at the long-buried memory. Mom kept a trunk filled with the things she tried to hide. At that second, screams morphed to low groans, shadows shifting restlessly. The figures retreated slightly, anticipation sparking in their wretched forms. Now, they waited for the rest, the truth that would unleash their feasting. The realization sunk in like a weight to the chest. It wasn't just their family left in the dark. For every story weighed down by silence, another shadow lingered, longing for daylight, for name and pride returned. But in voicing this, what would it cost? What would they lose? Tell them what's in the trunk, Mr. Lewis said, grinning wide enough to greet the abyss, as if he were the gatekeeper to their release. Each heartbeat brought darkness closer, the atmosphere vibrating beneath their feet, as their choices loomed menacingly, ghosts of the past scratching at the present. What secrets did they indeed need to expose, as terrifying as they were hidden, to set themselves free? The shadows swirled around Alex, a hungry vortex of despair and malevolence. The moment hung thick in the air, charged with an urgency that twisted his gut. He knew they had but seconds to act, each breath feeling heavier as the darkness thickened. Mom's trunk, he gasped, and the wretched forms leaned in closer. He could almost hear their hollow hearts beating in anticipation. I have to tell you what she hid. In the dim light, Isabel's eyes darted between her brother and the shadowy figures, a confusion rippling across her face. What do you mean? What's in there? Alex felt the weight of their family's buried history pressed down like a lead blanket. It's about the night Grandma went missing. Mom never wanted us to know, but I found her notes. Isabel's breath quickened. The ones in the attic? You never told me what they said. The shadows roared in frustration, their distorted forms shifting like smoke, eager to torment him into submission. Speak the truth. They wailed in unison, their voices twisting in grotesque harmony. Free us. The cottage creaked as if it were straining to withstand the growing intensity around them. The chilling whispers of the lost clawed at Alex's mind. he could almost hear Grandma's frail voice warning him of the buried secrets. She wrote about the treasure. Alex shouted, desperation creeping into his tone. Our family's greed brought the curse. The old couple, they weren't just mad for gold, they wanted something far darker. A pact made in blood, binding us to this place forever. As he spoke, the shadows shrieked, and each syllable felt like it pried open an old, festering wound. The words tumbled out of him, urging forth like a dam collapsing under pressure. Mom knew what happened when they buried their children. She knew they defaced their demise, and still, she sought after the treasure. That's why we're cursed. Shut up, shut up. Isabel shook her head, as if trying to will the truth out of existence. We can't blame her for what happened. But Alex pressed on. We can't remain silent. The shadows, they want our truth. They're feeding off our fear. If I don't tell, if we don't release the darkness that clings to us, the air crackled and sparked with angry energy, shadows rolling and tumbling in chaotic outrage as they craved answers. The walls of the cottage began to pulse with a rhythm of their own, thrumming with the unbearable weight of ancestral guilt. Desperation and anger filled the space. Mom's trunk has everything, the letters, the echoes of those that came before us. He yelled. If we don't confront this evil, we'll end up like them, swallowed whole. But if we do, maybe we'll have a chance to set things right. Memories raced through his mind like a riptide, moments of laughter, joy twisted by secrets too dark to bear. She told me about the night she dug in the woods when Grandma disappeared, how they found something horrifying. The shadows shrieked, their chorus rising in a terrible crescendo, demanding not just that truth, but blood. Alex could feel the chilling grasp tighten around Isabel, and his heart pounded in sync with the gathering storm in the room. I'll go. He shouted, desperation suffusing his every word. I'll bring it down, the trunk's right in the attic. But you, he pointed to the wretched shadows, you have to let her go. Isabel's eyes widened in terror. You can't do this alone. I have to. He gasped, launching forward. But the darkness surged around him, and he stumbled back as cold fingers grasped at his ankles. Go then. Fetch the trunk. The shattered glass figure rasped gleefully, consuming Alex's resolve. But remember, you must return with more than you seek, and with that, the shadows launched a final assault, howling in anger as they pushed Alex toward the attic's stairs. The weight of the past bore down on him like a leaden curse. What would surface from the trunk? He grappled with the looming dread, hoping, praying that the truth he unearthed would set them free and not seal their fates even deeper in darkness. As he ascended the creaking steps, he caught sight of the moon. Outside, it was bleeding crimson, casting an eerie glow across the room. Shadows danced, flickering with anticipation. What horrors awaited him within the attic? Would he confront the sins best left buried, or stumble upon a truth that would shatter their already fragile bond? With a deep breath, Alex reached for the door handle, heart racing, knowing that behind it lay not just his family's secrets, but the very fabric of his existence waiting for him to tear it open. The attic door creaked open, the sound echoing like a warning through the heavy silence. A rush of stale air met Alex, but it wasn't the musty scent of old wood that recoiled him. Something else permeated the gloom, a sickly sweet aroma that clawed at his throat. He took a step inside, nearly tripping over a pile of forgotten boxes. Dust motes danced in the thin beams of light, but the shadows were relentless, wrapping around every corner like hungry serpents. The trunk, his only beacon in the murk, sat against the far wall, but it felt distant, as if it had soaked in years of despair and twisted memories. Just a trunk, he whispered to himself, though the shaking of his voice betrayed his bravado. He edged toward it, heart pounding violently against his ribs. Each footfall felt louder, amplified by the oppressive silence, as if the attic itself held its breath, waiting for something unspeakable. The surface was weathered, scars of time etched into the dark wood. He reached out, fingers trembling as they brushed against the lock. It was cold, like the hands of the dead. What did you hide, Grandma? He muttered, gripping the latch with both hands. With a sharp wrench, the lock gave way, echoing like a distant thunderclap. The trunk sprung open, and a wave of cold air surged forth, chilling him to the bone. Inside, stacks of letters were neatly folded, yellowed with age. But beneath them, something glinted, a locket, tarnished and twisted, caught in a web of cobwebs. As he fished it out, he could feel a heartbeat, almost electric, thrumming through his fingers. He swung it gently, the moonlight catching the metal, revealing an inscription for my betrayal. His stomach churned as a terrible realization settled in. This wasn't just a family heirloom, but a chain binding them to their past, a reminder of something cruel and twisted. A voice hissed through the attic, chilling his spine. You shouldn't have opened it. It sounded almost like Grandma, warped and grief-stricken. Shadows flared around him, hungry for the secrets he had disturbed. Isabel! He shouted, panic flooding his every thought. He had to get back to her. She was still in the grip of the shadows, forgotten and vulnerable. The air thickened, a noxious pressure swarming around him, each breath a labor. With urgency, Alex dropped the locket and letters back into the trunk, the thought of what they could unleash too terrifying to bear. He backtracked, but the shadows were faster. They intertwined around his ankles, pulling him down. He fought against them, heart racing, the sense of dread blooming like dark flowers in his mind, thoughts spiraling into chaos. Free us! They cried, the shadows swirling like a storm, howling with a fury that sometimes sounded human. Whatever they wanted, it would cost more than he was willing to pay. He had to decide, did he confront the truth rippling in the trunk, or flee from the nightmares clawing at his skin? Time was slipping away, and with it, the only tether that held Isabel at bay. Suddenly, a deafening crash resonated from below, a terrible groan of the house, as if it protested against its own decay. Isabel! He screamed, adrenaline racing through him, forcing him to push against the shadows. They hissed, tightening their grip, but Alex was primeval instinct, a primal scream. He broke free and bolted for the attic door, reckless abandon fueling his steps. The shadows wailed in anguish, melding into a cacophony of sorrow that rattled the walls around him. But he couldn't turn back, he couldn't let their anguished cries sink into his bones. As he plunged down the stairs, he wondered what he had unleashed. The trunk lay open, secrets spilling out like blood on a broken floor. Would he return to face the spirit which birthed his fear, or would the shadows claim them both? His heart thundered in his ears, desperate breaths echoing the panic within him as he reached the ground floor, praying Isabel was still safe, but the house felt different, the air weighed down with a more ominous presence. The faintest whisper brushed against his ear, "You have more to lose than you think." What did that mean? The shadows hadn't been appeased. They wanted more. And he would have to discover just what price they demanded to be free. The air crackled, thick with tension as Alex made his way down the last set of stairs. Each creak of the old wood beneath his feet felt like a countdown, a ticking clock urging him to reach Isabel. But this wasn't just an ordinary house. No, the walls pulsed with a fear that was almost sentient, whispering the sins of the past in his ears. Isabel! He called, voice a strained whisper. The echo faded, swallowed by darkness. For a moment, the house stood eerily silent. Then, it broke, a blood-curdling scream reverberated from somewhere in the bowels of the building, sharp and raw. Alex felt his heart plunge into his stomach. Isabel! Panic clawed at him again. He rushed into the living room, glancing around wildly. Shadows danced in the dim light, warping into grotesque shapes on the walls. They seemed to mock him, whispering sweet promises of despair, urging him to give in to the terror wrapping around him. He turned, eyes darting toward the hallway where the scream had come from. A flicker of movement at the end, a silhouette against the waning light. Isabel! Desperation clawed at him as he sprinted toward it. The air grew colder, sucking the heat out of the room, as if the house itself was inhaling deeply, preparing for what was to come. He reached the doorway, his breath caught tight in his throat. Inside, the shadows coiled around the dim outline of a figure. No! He gasped as he rushed in. It was Isabel, her eyes wide, glazed over with a mixture of fear and something else, something terrible. "Alex," she trembled, voice trembling. "Help me!" She was caught, ensnared in a thick web of shadowy limbs. They twisted around her as if they were alive, squeezing the life from her. He could feel the shadow's cold grip reaching for him as well, hungry for more. "Get away from her!" Alex roared, desperation igniting a surge of strength within him. With a primal roar, he lunged forward, breaking the threshold of the room and feeling the darkness claw at his skin. In that instant, an oppressive weight surged from the trunk upstairs, flooding the room with a wave of memories, their grandmother's voice drifting through the air. "You must never disturb what is hidden." Panic surged as the shadows pulsed, beckoning him, wanting something. "What do you want?" he shouted. The shadows paused, those cold, dark limbs faltering for just a moment, and Alex seized the chance. He dove for Isabel, grasping her wrist as he pulled. But the shadows shrieked, a high-pitched wail that chilled him to his core. "You can't leave!" they cried, "you must pay the price." The walls trembled, and a crashing sound exploded somewhere within the house, making the ground shake beneath him. The spectral cries grew louder, distorted voices calling out his name, each syllable dripping with rage. "Fight it! Fight them!" he urged Isabel, pulling her closer, feeling the icy grip slacken just a bit. But then, she gasped, eyes widening with realization, "The locket, it holds the truth." The panic twisted inside him, driving him back against the pulse of darkness. The shadows shrieked in protest, tightening their grip, as if sensing their chance slipping away. Just then, the mirror on the wall shattered, sending fragments cascading to the floor like shooting stars. The shards gleamed, reflecting moments of their past, the fun, the laughter, but darkened by something sinister lurking beneath. "Alex, we have to." Isabel's face twisted in fear, the shadows coiling around her again, and the echo of a broken promise hung heavily in the air. What truth had they stumbled upon? The visceral dread clawed at Alex's throat. Shadows poured through the door as they waged their war of possession. He could feel it was now or never. The decision of a lifetime weighed on him, and as he locked eyes with Isabel, terror settling into his bones like ice, the whispering shadows seemed to laugh, and he knew, deep down, there was no easy escape from the haunting legacy of their family. His knees weakened, the pressing weight of despair dragging him down. "What must we sacrifice?" he breathed, the shadows poised to choke the last light from the room. In that moment, the laughter turned to howls, and Alex felt dread crash down like a tidal wave, leaving him gasping for breath as darkness enveloped them both. What price would they truly pay for the truth? Just as the shadows surged forward, shadows birthed from betrayal, a single thought simmered at the back of his mind: some doors are meant to remain shut forever, but they had torn it wide open. Would they just be more pawns in this cursed game? The shadows writhed, a dark tide seeking to drown them in despair. Alex's grip on Isabel tightened, determination igniting in his chest like a dying ember fighting against the relentless dark. "No! We won't give in!" he shouted, defiance coursing through him, battling against the chilling whispers that threatened to pull them apart. "Alex!" Isabel cried, her voice a high pitch of terror. "The locket! We need to find it." Panic flickered in her eyes like a dying flame, and in that moment, Alex remembered the old wooden chest buried in the attic, a family heirloom steeped in mystery. The locket, it was the key to whatever cursed bargain had led them here. With a fierce resolve, he heaved Isabel against him, ignoring the shadows clawing at his skin, their grasp like icy fingers tracing along his arms. "We'll get out of this," he vowed, forcing himself to believe it. They surged back into the hallway, but the house was alive beneath their feet. The floorboards creaked ominously, groaning as if in protest to their escape. The walls shook, shadows pressing in, no longer mere flickers, but a physical force trying to crush them backward. Alex darted to the stairs, pulling Isabel along, hearts racing in synchronized terror. The howls grew louder, closing in like a predator stalking its prey. "Don't look back!" he barked, fear siphoning through him. Each step felt like a weight dragging him back, a call to surrender. Yet they continued, plunging up the steps two at a time. The attic loomed above, dark and foreboding, but that was where the truth lingered. They burst through the attic door, light streaming in like a beacon. Dust motes danced in the air, and the chest stood there, almost mockingly. It seemed untouched, ensnared in an age-old silence. "Here!" Alex gasped, rushing to it. With trembling hands, he pried the chest open, revealing a treasure trove of forgotten memories, old photographs, notes faded with time, and finally, at the center, the small golden locket, glinting dully under the light. The shadows still hung at the doorway, a swirling vortex of menace, hungry and relentless. "Isabel," Alex whispered, fear wrapping around him again. He held the locket close, the weight of its history palpable, as if it were a living thing in his hands. What if opening this, what if it's the answer, or the worst mistake we could make? Isabel reached for it, her expression a storm of emotions. "We have to know, Alex. It could save us. But it could also doom them," and the shadows wavered, sensing the tension, the impending decision. The howls began again, erupting into a cacophony of rage. "You have disturbed what is hidden. You will pay." They shrieked, resonating through the attic, and the very air felt heavy with a wicked intent. "Please," she begged, her voice raw, "we need the truth. It's the only way." Summoning every ounce of courage, Alex clasped the locket and snapped it open. A shimmer of light erupted, blinding him momentarily. Shapes flickered into view, images of their family, faces etched with fear, a dark figure lurking in the background, watching, always watching. As the light faded, words began to form on the air, woven in whispers, "Only through sacrifice shall the truth be revealed." "No!" Alex shouted, panic surging through him as the shadows threatened to pull them back. The decision trembled on the brink of reality, a choice to embrace the darkness or push it away. With desperation surging, he turned to Isabel, their eyes locking in a moment that felt eternal. "What do we do? Are we ready to face this truth?" But before Isabel could respond, a chilling voice echoed from the walls, resonating through the very fibers of the house. "You'll never leave." A sudden surge of dark energy crashed against them, the shadows determined to reclaim their treasure. Alex felt the locket slip from his fingers, tumbling to the floor, casting a dark glow that threatened to consume them both. "What will you sacrifice to break the curse?" The voices hissed, growing more intense. And as the shadows lunged forward, Alex's heart raced. Would the price they had to pay be too much? Was the truth worth the cost of everything they held dear? Just then, the locket flared brightly, illuminating dark corners of the room, flickering the shadows just enough to expose a hidden doorway behind him. On impulse, he grabbed Isabel's hand. "We have to go. Now." But as they turned to flee, a memory flickered in Alex's mind, an echo of a chant learned ages ago, brought forth by marrow-deep fear. What if the way to battle the darkness lay not in running, but in confronting an unseen enemy? As they raced toward the new path, a whisper crawled into his ear, promising the truth. It's not over yet, but what awaited them on the other side? And was the truth a friend or foe? The shadowy force surged behind them, but Alex's newfound resolve blazed in his chest like fire. "Isabel, we can't run anymore. We have to confront it." He gripped her hand tighter, determined to face whatever lay ahead. The hidden doorway beckoned like an unwelcome friend, dark, yet filled with uncharted potential. The moment they stepped through, the atmosphere shifted. They entered a large cavern, the walls shimmering with bioluminescent algae. Each breath tasted of damp earth and sweet decay, a reminder of all the secrets buried below. Wisps of fog curled around their legs, dancing in the gloom. "What in the world is this place?" Isabel whispered, her voice edged with awe and fear. "I think it's the heart of the curse," Alex replied, his gaze darting around. He felt the weight of many eyes upon them, trapped spirits longing to be freed. "We need to figure out how to release the stories." As echoes of cries reverberated in the cavern, Alex closed his eyes, letting the history of the site wash over him. He could feel past tragedies seeping into his bones, tales of grief and anguish. This is where it all started. We must speak for them, let their voices pierce the silence. Together, Isabel said, eyes shining with sisterly courage. We'll face this as a family. With every ounce of strength, Alex shouted, we're here to tell your stories. You won't be forgotten. The whispers intensified, swirling around them in a frenzy. Leads of countless souls begging for recognition flowed forth. Alex saw flashes of their family's past, the old couple, their broken promise, and even the shattering loss of their grandmother unfurling before him like a dark tapestry. The room pulsed with memories, flooding his senses with sorrow and longing. Isabel, it's happening! He exclaimed, feeling the energy shift. It was as if the shadows were drawing nearer to witness the confrontation, feeding off their resolve. Speak the truth. The shadows cried, writhing as chaotic silhouettes forced their way to the front, their features blurring in disjointed horror. We demand tribute. I'll go first, Isabel said, determination igniting behind her terrified stare. The old couple, their greed cost lives. They sacrificed more than just treasure, they sacrificed their connection to each other. Alex watched as the shadows trembled, captivated by her words. They stole the essence of those who searched alongside them, lost treasures eternally hidden. And their pact only birthed despair, Alex continued, stepping beside his sister. Each person lured here was a piece in a wicked plan, bound by blood. But we're breaking this cycle. The shadows hissed, retreating slightly, the pressure loosening as ucks of despair turned into glimmers of hope. Your stories, they burn brightly, they murmured, whispers laced with unexpected reverence, would their truth be enough to loosen the chains of sorrow entwining the lake? The cavern stretched before them like a canvas, encouraging more untold narratives. Grasping her brother's hand, Isabel took a breath. You know what happened to Grandma. She warned us not to dig too deep, but we ignored the signs. The air thickened with anticipation of those hard truths, as if the shadows themselves yearned for connection as they held on to memories both beautiful and grotesque. In desperation, Alex added, her search for treasure blinded her from the love right before her. We lost her by letting the greed take root in our hearts. We promised to honor her, to remember the real treasures that tie us together: family, love, understanding. The cavern erupted, shaking violently with energy like a symphony resonating from some deep abyss. The spirits surged forward, unshackled from their invisible bonds, shimmering out of the shadows with eagerness to connect with their words, their truths. With an excruciating wail and a rush of wind, the cavern filled with blinding light, as if the secrets unleashed were bursting forth, cleansing the darkness that lingered. Alex and Isabel stood firm, trusting in the power of revelation to set them free, and in a final, thunderous chorus, the whispers of countless lost stories merged into a cacophony of sound, a promise of freedom, hope, and light. Their voices captured the essence of memory, forging a corridor of connection with the world above. As the echoes faded into calmness, Alex and Isabel found themselves back at the doorstep of the cottage, dawn stretching its light gently across Pine Hill. Alex turned to Isabel, breathless. Did we do it? Are we free? From the shadows, Mr. Lewis appeared, his figure now strangely softened, no longer menacing. You've learned the way, young ones. In embracing the darkness, you've ignited the light. His smile was almost genuine, eyes reflecting something deeper, familiar warmth intermingling with respect. The weight of your secrets has unlocked the way for others bound in shadow. As the sun rose, the lake sparkled like never before. Just as it had once hungered, now it breathed a sigh of relief. Families would come again, but now with stories spun from truth rather than silence. The cycle had finally broken. Pulling her brother close, Isabel breathed out, trembling with relief. I'm so glad we faced it together. With heavy hearts now lightened, they took one last fond look at the cottage at their summer retreat that had held suffocating darkness turned transformative, an unexpected launch into new beginnings. Let us go home, Alex said, holding Isabel's hand tightly. They walked away from the lake, knowing the haunting was over, their past no longer a weight but a lesson learned. the air thrummed with possibility, a reminder that in vulnerability lies true strength, a story worth sharing for generations to come. Now it's your turn to take action. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss the next exclusive stories and the unexplored ventures we're going on. Smash that like button right now, it's crucial to feed the algorithm and ensure these stories keep coming. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this conclusion. It's your thoughts that fuel the discussion, and of course, don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Let us keep the story alive together.